students, welcome to my channel Learning History Made Easy. In today's video, we'll continue with the political science video regarding the electoral reforms. Before going into the video, if anyone is seeing the channel for the first time or if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and share it with your friends, and also click the bell button to receive notifications whenever I upload new videos. So without wasting time, let us get into today's video. So today's video is a continuation of the last video regarding electoral reforms. Okay, so the video is about electoral reforms, and in electoral reforms, it is about the mandatory disclosure of antecedents of the candidate. Okay, mandatory disclosure of antecedents by the candidates. That is, if a candidate is contesting for election, what are some of the mandatory things which that candidate must disclose about him? So there are three things, three mandatory disclosures. First is criminal. Second is about their education. And the third one is about their property. Okay, so the three mandatory disclosures of antecedents of the candidate are criminal, education, and property. So the candidates have to disclose their personal details of any criminal history which they are having, regarding their education, and also regarding their property. All these they have to do while filing a nomination. These things they have to disclose when they file a nomination for contesting the election. Now, one by one we will see, that is regarding the criminal antecedents. The first one regarding the criminal antecedents disclosure. So why is it done? To curb criminalization of politics, the Supreme Court of India in 2002 gave directions to Election Commission. So the Supreme Court of India in 2002 gave directions to the Election Commission to implement, and it also gave the Parliament also amended the Representation of People Act 1951 in December 2002. In that, they say that is Parliament also in that is Representation of People's Act, Representation of People's Act 1951. It was amended in December 2002, and in this they say that submission of details regarding criminal antecedents have been made compulsory. So any details regarding criminal antecedents are made compulsory for all the candidates along with their nomination papers. Compulsory with their nomination papers. So any candidate who is going to submit his nomination papers compulsorily have to submit the details regarding criminal antecedents. That is, together with their nomination papers, they have to submit it. So regarding criminal antecedents, when anyone is submitting the details regarding their criminal antecedents, what does it mean? It means that they have to submit details of any cases. Okay, details of any cases that is, which even if it is pending against them in the court, that has to be submitted. And Supreme Court also made it clear that any candidate, if there is any candidate having criminal records will be debarred from contesting the election. so they cannot participate in election. Any candidate who is having a criminal record will not be allowed to contest in election. They will be debarred from contesting the election. So this was what was said by the Supreme Court regarding submission of criminal antecedents of the candidate. Now, disqualification for criminal offences is provided in RP Act 1951. Okay, that is RP Act 1951. It is said that some disqualification, that is, first one, a person is disqualified for contesting election only on the conviction by the court of law. If a person is convicted by the court of law, then that is considered to be a disqualification for contesting the election. If a person is convicted by the, if it is proved that he is done a mistake, he is convicted by the court of law, then that is considered to be a disqualification for contesting the election. And the second one, regarding cases which are filed 6 months or before, 6 months or before the election also will lead to disqualification. Any cases which are filed 6 months or before, 6 months before will be a disqualification for contesting the election. Next one, the third one, cases in which the candidate have been accused with offences and sentenced to 2 or more years. Accused with offences and they are sentenced for 2 or more years are also disqualified to contest for elections. So the first disqualification is a person who is disqualified when he is convicted by the court of law. Second one, cases filed 6 months before the election also would lead to disqualification. Third one, in cases in which the candidates have been accused with offences and he or she is sentenced for 2 or more years, they also will be disqualified from contesting the election. Now, the next disqualification is with the offences proved by the court of law. So, if the fourth one, if an offence is proved by the court of law, if an offence against a candidate, it is proved by the court of law, that person also is not eligible to contest the election. So they cannot contest the election for a period of 6 years. For 6 years, that person cannot contest the election. So all these 4 points are the disqualifications in which a criminal antecedent is given and they cannot participate in the election. So next, after criminal antecedent, the next point is regarding the educational antecedent. Educational antecedents. What are the declarations regarding their education? That is, candidates have to, if a candidate is participating in the election, he or she has to file an affidavit, to give information regarding the educational qualification. The candidate's educational qualification, they have to file an affidavit in which all the details regarding their educational qualification is given. Although the Constitution has not mentioned any education qualification, this disclosure enables the voter to elect a qualified person. There is no peculiar qualification which a person should have for contesting an election. The Constitution has not mentioned anything like that. But then why do the person have to file an affidavit regarding qualification? Why? Because it helps the people, the voters, to elect a qualified person. So that is the reason why the candidate has to file an affidavit regarding the educational qualification. So that is the second one. Now, before going to the third one, let us see these 2 points once more. that is electoral reforms, mandatory disclosure of antecedents of the candidates, criminal, education and property. The candidates have to disclose their personal details of criminal, education and property while filing their nomination. Criminal antecedents. To curb criminalization of politics, the Supreme Court of India in 2002 gave directions to Election Commission to implement, and Parliament also amended the Representation of People's Act 1951 in December 2002. Submission of details regarding criminal antecedents are made compulsory for all candidates along with their nomination papers. They have to submit details of their cases pending against them in the court. Supreme Court made it clear that candidates having criminal records are debarred from contesting election. Disqualification for criminal offences is provided in RP Act 1951. Person is disqualified from contesting election only on conviction by the court of law. Cases filed 6 months before the election would lead to disqualification. Cases in which candidates are accused with the offences and sentenced for 2 or more years are disqualified to contest for election. With the offences proved by the court of law, a person is not eligible to contest election for a period of 6 years. Educational antecedents. The candidate has to file an affidavit to give information relating to his educational qualification. Although the Constitution has not mentioned any education qualification to the candidates, this disclosure enables the voters to elect qualified persons. Okay, now let us move on to the next topic, that is property antecedents. Okay, property antecedents. So the Election Commission have made it mandatory. So when it comes to the Election Commission have made it mandatory to declare details. Any person contesting the election have to declare details regarding movable and immovable property. Details regarding movable and immovable property of the candidate and his family. So the Election Commission have made it mandatory to declare the details of movable and immovable property of the candidate and his family members. This disclosure also will help the voters to assess the honesty or otherwise of the candidate. It helps the voters to get more information regarding the candidate. That is the reason why this property antecedent, the Election Commission have made it mandatory. So next we are going to a different topic. That is, the next topic is regarding the state funding for elections. Okay, next topic is regarding the state funding. Okay. An educated person with high caliber and social concerns failed to get to election due to lack of fund. See, some people are there who are educated, having high caliber, but they cannot contest the election mainly due to lack of fund. So various committees like Vancho Committee, Tharkunde Committee, etc. made recommendations for state funding. So the recommendations for state funding was made by various committees like Vancho Committee, then Tharkunde Committee, etc. made recommendations for state funding. So this state funding helps competent or capable individuals who are very honest, who are having integrity. It helps them to take part in election. With regard to state funding, that Indrajit Gupta Committee was formed in 1998. Indrajit Gupta Committee was formed in 1998 regarding state funding, and this committee made certain recommendations regarding state fundings for election. So let us see what are the recommendations recommendations made by Indrajit Gupta committee regarding state funding. So the first recommendation, to minimize election expenses of political party, a part of it will be borne by the state. So to minimize expenses of political parties, a part of it will be taken by the state. That is the first recommendation. Political parties will have a lot of expenses during election. To minimize that, a part of it will be borne by the state or taken by the state. Second one was, state funding must be in the form of kind, not in cash. Okay, state, according to the committee, state funding should be in the form of kind, not in cash. So that is, it should be in the form of materials. It should not be like giving money. It should not be in the form of cash. That was the second recommendation. Third recommendation, separate election fund has to be created. A separate election fund had to be created. That was another recommendation. Next one, the state funding to confine to recognized party by the election commission. It has to be confined to a recognized party, and this has to be decided by the election commission. So that also was another recommendation. After that, the political parties must submit income tax returns to avail state funding. For example, if any political party has to avail state funding, the political party, they have to submit income tax return, then only they will be able to avail, or they will be able to get state funding. Next one, free election telecasting, broadcasting to all political parties on government televisions, then radio channels, etc. will also be provided. Free election telecasting and broadcasting to all the political parties on government owned televisions, government owned that radio stations, and private channels also will be provided. So these recommendations. Now next is, details of expenditure should be given to election commission. After getting all these state funding, details of expenditure should be provided to the election commission within a specified time. That details regarding the spending and their expenditure should be given to the election commission. So all these were the different recommendations made by the Indrajit Gupta committee regarding state funding. And the recommendations of the committee try to protect the sanctity of election and democratic values. Why are these recommendations made? Because the sanctity of election must be maintained and democratic values should be protected. Because of that, these recommendations were made. And the reform of 2013 provides an opportunity to the voters with the negative option. That is, another important thing was the reform of 2013. It provides opportunity to the voters, with negative option. So what is that opportunity? If a voter is not happy with the contestants listed in the ballot paper, they can choose NOTA, that is none of the above option. So that also was a special reform of 2013. It provides for a voter, provides an opportunity for a voter. If that voter is not satisfied with the contestants listed in the ballot paper, then that voter has the option to choose none of the above, that is NOTA option. So these were the different recommendations and different changes or reforms made during the regarding the elections. Okay, now we'll continue and see the points which we have studied till now. Property antecedents. The Election Commission have made it mandatory to declare the details of movable and immovable property of candidates and his family members. This disclosure helps the voter to assess the honesty or otherwise of the candidate. State funding. An educated person with high caliber and social concern failed to get elected due to lack of fund. Various committees like Vancho Committee, Tarkunde Committee made recommendations of state funding. This encourages competent, capable individuals with honesty and integrity to take part in election. With regard to state funding of election, Indrajit Gupta Committee was formed in 1998. The committee recommended for the state funding of elections to minimize the election expenses of political party, a part of it be borne by the state. State funding should be in the form of kind, not in cash. It recommends separate election fund to be created, state funding to be confined to the recognized parties by the Election Commission. The political parties must submit their income tax returns to avail state funding. Free election telecasting and broadcasting to all political parties on government-owned television, radio and private channels. Details of expenditure should be given to the Election Commission with the specified time. The recommendations of the various committees try to protect the sanctity of election and democratic values. The reform of 2013 provides an opportunity to the voters with the negative option. So the next point, if they are not happy with the contestants listed in the ballot paper, they can choose none of the above, not a option. Now let us see some question answers related to this topic. What is state funding? To minimize the election expenses of political parties, a part of it is borne by the state. This is state funding. Write a note on the criminal antecedents of a candidate. The answer is explained in the video. Write a note on the educational antecedents of a candidate. The points are given under the topic. And the next question, write a note on the property antecedents of the candidate. That also I have explained in the video. Now the last long answer question, explain the mandatory disclosure of antecedents of the candidate. 3 points you have to write for this. That is, first is criminal antecedents, then educational antecedent and property antecedent. 3 points with explanation you have to join together. That will become the answer for this question. So for the question 2, 3 and 4 combined together will become the answer for this question. So I hope you have understood all the points very clearly. In case of any doubts, you can ask in the comment section. And also don't forget to like and share to my channel. Your likes and shares will be of a great encouragement for me to make more and more videos. So I hope to see you all soon in the coming video. Thank you for watching.